Our passion, Zoe's, my passion, is the Himalayan salt lamps because of the personal experiences in our lives. But I'll give you a little bit of history about them. What you see here is actually around about 300 million years old. When they were formed, the Himalayas didn't exist. As the Himalayas came up out of the ocean, this is what dried and was left over. It's now currently mined. Our source of our salt is from the Kira salt mines in northern Pakistan, in the foothills of the Himalayas. That's where around about 90% of the world's salt lamp production comes from. What they actually do, salt by its nature ionizes. So in your home, it actually helps get rid of things like dust, pollen, allergens, kills viruses and bacteria, gets rid of smoke and odours. It even neutralises the electromagnetic fields from your TVs and computers and all your electronic equipment. All of that stuff that I just talked about creates a positive charge. That positive charge causes disease in humans, it causes lack of focus, it causes lack of energy. These neutralise that by producing a negative charge. It's very, very similar to when you go down the beach. When you go down to the beach, you tend to feel better. You tend to have a lot more energy. You tend to focus a lot better. If you stay near the beach, you tend to sleep better at night. That's the product of the salt, the water and the air getting together to produce negative ions. If you've ever walked along the beach, you turn around to go back and you think, you know, normally I wouldn't have walked that far in my normal home environment. That's because of the extra energy you get. That's what negative ions do for you. In nature, there's a couple of other places you get that. Right near a waterfall, straight after a thunderstorm, particularly if there's been a lot of lightning. You know when you go outside straight after a thunderstorm, the air is really clear and crisp? You love that feeling, and if there's been a lot of lightning around, your hair may even stand up on end. That's because of the electric charge in the air, a negative electric charge. That's really, really good for human beings. Unfortunately, the way we live, in our homes, we tend to be 2 to 10 times more polluted inside than outside. The problem with that is we get that fatigue factor. You sit in front of a computer for a while, you get that fatigue really easily. With these, they sort of balance that out a little bit. When you have that sort of heavy concentration of pollution, you increase asthma, hay fever, any sort of respiratory problems, emphysema, bronchitis, pneumonia, all of those things become a lot worse in that environment. Therefore, the reverse is true. If you put a lot of negative ions in the air, these will help things like people with asthma, hay fever, the chronic things like the bronchitis, emphysema, pneumonia, any sort of respiratory issue. Even to the point where, especially with kids with learning difficulties, ADHD, hyperactivity, all those sorts of things, if they're breathing negative ions, their body functions better. When their body functions better, all of those things are easier. Now, a couple of other things with the Himalayan salt that I should say. It is literally multi-purpose. You can use it on your food. Being a salt from an ancient ocean, 300 odd million years old, it's actually the ocean that life came out of. It's got 84 trace elements in it. So when you're using it internally, it actually helps balance the chemistry of the body. It's one of the very few salts that doesn't adversely affect blood pressure. Doctors will tell you, if you've got high blood pressure, don't add salt to your food. That's a given. And they're right if they're talking about the salts that you buy from the supermarket. The problem with most salts is they're farmed off salt pans and the crystal structure is very large. So when it goes through the kidney and liver, it actually spikes the blood pressure. With this one here, because it's been compressed for 300 million years, crystal structure is very fine. So when it goes through the kidney and liver, no spike in blood pressure, and the actual salt crystals go into the bloodstream, release the trace elements, therefore your body functions better. Again, more energy. It actually has a cleansing effect on the body too. We always hear about Kathleen with her health and wellness products. One of the things she recommends is to cleanse the gut. This is one of the things that helps that. You can actually also use it to wash yourself. Again, if you go down the beach, you have a swim in the ocean, rinse yourself off, you never feel better. You feel really, really clean. If you send a bunch of pimply-faced teenagers down to the beach for 3 or 4 days, they come back, their skin, they look like models. Very, very clear. It's true. But again, it's the 84 trace elements that nourishes the skin. Unfortunately, our oceans these days are a little bit depleted and polluted. This is a bit like taking the ocean home from 300 million years ago, the ocean that life came out of. Really, really good for things like eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, any sort of fungal, viral or bacterial infection on the skin, it'll help. One of the things with footballers, and those of you who play sport will realise that AFL football in particular, very, very harsh sport on the body because it relies on 2 things, strength and speed. Most sports rely predominantly on one or the other, not both. With AFL, it's almost a balance of the 2. Why do you think the trainers and that sort of thing send the players down to the beach on an 8-degree day to wade around in the water?
To laugh at.
to get them back for what they do in the dressing rooms. But seriously, it is, that salt draws the lactic acid out of the muscles. It helps detoxify the body. And that's why it's called a recovery session. Okay? Really, really good for you. That's pretty much it about the salt. What I'd like to do is open it up to questions. Yes, Peter?
Is that actually a soap that you actually have there? What is it?
It's actually a bar of salt. Like the lamps, it's made out of exactly the same thing, or carved out of exactly the same thing. You're not going to get any lathering from it. In fact, you go too hard on your skin, you will scratch yourself.
Oh, that's how you really pimples.
Well, look, it's funny because the pimples, the reason you get pimples is a bacteria on your skin blocking the pores. Salt's a natural sterilant. So it's going to kill the bacteria, therefore get rid of the pimples. You can actually even use it as a deodorant. Again, the same sort of thing. Sweating is not bad for you. Sweating doesn't cause you to smell. It's the bacteria that feed in those warm, moist areas. This is a natural sterilant. You use it, for instance, under your whiffy armpits. It'll actually kill that bacteria, therefore get rid of the smell. But again, there's a certain way to use it. You can't use it like a normal soap because, like I said, you will scratch yourself. You've got to be gentle on yourself.
How many square metres do they actually end up cover?
Really good question. Give you an idea, that's at what we call a 2 to 3 kilo lamp. That actually will do a standard size bedroom. So you multiply that effect for each room. Obviously a big area like this you would need multiples or a couple of large ones. And they do come up to 60 kilos in size.
What's the idea of the light inside the salt crystal?
Makes them look pretty, number 1. But number 2, the actual heat from the light globe enhances the qualities of salt. What we're talking about is a chemical reaction between the salt and the moisture in the air. It actually recycles that moisture, giving it a negative charge. Now, like most chemical reactions, you add heat, you speed it up. So when they're on, they're actually 10 times more effective than when they're off. So there is actually a purpose to the light, not just to make them look pretty. They are a little nightlight globe, so they're very, very energy efficient. With the bigger lamps, we run 15 watts. With the smaller lamps, 7 watts. So you're actually talking somewhere between, if you're running them 24 hours a day, somewhere between 15 and 30 cents a week to run. So not a huge amount.
Do you need more salt lamps to counteract that? What's useful?
Basically, easy answer, yes. We do actually have a consultancy service which we charge for. We come in and tell you where to put your salt lamps in regards to your home, and obviously if you purchase salt lamps, some of the cost of that consultancy comes off. Well, thanks very much.